Brian Lara used pot plants to work on his placement. John Wright glued his glove to his bat. Sachin Tendulkar dug up practice pitches. Tatenda Taibu cut the top off his bat. Claire Taylor used a hockey grip. Steve Smith was from tennis. Dean Jones would call phantom runs. And Victor Trumper turned the nets into a war zone to survive. The best batters in the world do whatever they have to make runs. We have told their stories in our new book, The Art of Batting.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Good Areas Live. I'm Behram Kazi, who you can find at Def Mango on Twitter. And with me is Jared Kimber, who you can find literally everywhere. And this podcast is powered by our supporters on Patreon. You could become one of them, get ad-free content, talk to us, exclusively and a whole lot more. And Jared, I know we're here to review India's thumping 336 win over England in the Edgbaston test. But personally, if you ask me, I'm still emotionally recovering from Wian Mulder's declaration. That's where I'm at.
I've got a lot of friends who are just not handling this very well at all. Do you know what? I would say if you go back through the history of cricket, there's actually been probably a few times where people have done stuff like that. I think what's made it more dramatic is the fact that straight after Wian Mulder has declared, and I think I was on air going, here's the thing, guys. You need to remember he's trying to win the game and they've got to take wickets to win the game. And then I think by the time I'd said that sentence, they'd lost 3 wickets, Zimbabwe, right? So, but... if you go back to the Brian Lara one, the second one, right? They were like, we're not going to get clean swept by England. Andy Roberts was the groundsman. And I think there's a great story with Steve Harmison, see some old guy and the old guy says, you're not going to get any wickets on this. And Steve Harmison's like, well, you settle down. I'm bowling pretty well at the moment. And it turns out the old guy is Andy Roberts and the groundsman. And he goes, I prepared the wicket. You're not going to get any wickets on this. So essentially, we've had situations where it made sense for a team to do that. And we've had other situations where the game is different and everything else. This is a test match they're trying to win. I've got no problem with them doing that. As much as it would have been nice to see 400 get rolled. Because someone's going to score more than 400 soon. I just think because of the speed of scoring, right? Like if you look at Shubman Gill, I just think someone is going to score so quickly that they're going to break that record.
I mean, Wian is a false number 3, which would have made it even more grander. It would have broken cricket, essentially, which is what I was really hoping for, right? And then he's done what he's done out of respect of Brian Charles Lara. People have differing opinions on it. If you follow me on Twitter, you know where I'm at. But yeah, anyway, this is not about Wian. This is about India. And Jared, they lost a Bumrah test, and now they've won a non-Bumrah test. And I feel that is
they
quite
should never pick him again.
Yeah. And I mean, look, they must have gotten a lot of confidence out of this win. Plus, we were all super critical of the team they picked, right? Like the fact that they played that extra batter, and even if they went for a second spinner, that second spinner was Washington and not Kuldeep, right? They dropped Sai, brought in Nitish. It was a lot of stuff happening over there, but they didn't need all those bowlers or all-rounders, I would say. They just needed Akash Deep and Siraj.
Yeah, basically 3 bowlers, 3 seamers took 18 wickets between them. So look, no, it was fascinating. The Ryan Tendulkar comments as well about them trying to go to Lords no more than 1-0 down. The test kind of fell into their lap. Not, and I don't mean that in a luck way, but just in a way of the speed at which India scored, the speed at which England scored in reply meant that the end of the third day, there was just so much more time left in that game. It allowed them to, to do what you have to do, that sort of huge score, right? Like really, because, we've been talking about that a lot. You have to step on England's neck. If you just wait, like I know there are other people saying, oh, it shows that India are scared and they didn't declare 480 in front. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Why would you give the opposition that one thing they're good at a chance of it, right? Why not bat until they're dead? Tire them out for the tournament and everything else. And there are 2 ways of looking at this. And I can't remember who I was commentating with. It might have been Sid Monga. And he was sort of saying that it's easier to say that the extra batters helped because India made more runs, right? Yeah. In the first innings. But it's also worth remembering that on that kind of a wicket, of all the bowlers you would have wanted, Kuldeep is probably the bowler that you would have wanted on that surface to give them a go. So I the selection is not the way I would have done it. But when one person makes 267 and the number 8, who you've picked as a specialist number 8, essentially does what he does, I think that's fair. Like they did what they had to do.
I think obviously getting to 587 in the first innings was a big, box checked for India. The only time I felt like they were getting a bit too carried away was on day 4. I personally would have declared a T because I wanted to give myself enough overs to bowl England out. Now, in hindsight, it doesn't matter because England are never going to be, or at least this England are never going to be pragmatic. They aren't going to play for the draw, even if it makes sense and you're still up in the series if you draw the test. But overall, I feel like the extra batter strategy is defensive and it could backfire someday. It just happened that it didn't matter in this game because Akash took 10 and Siraj took 7. So that's all you really needed. On to England. Ben Stokes made some interesting comments. He likened the Edgbaston deck to a subcontinent deck. He said that didn't favor England. But Jared, we all saw the boundaries, how they were brought in to aid baseball. Even though climate change has played a role in the decks being flat, we have also been told that England prefer flatter decks, right? And then again, you won the toss and elected to field because you love to chase. That's on you. You can't be making excuses.
Also, it wasn't like a subcontinental deck. I mean, I don't know what we're talking about here. India took 18 wickets with seam bowling.
Yep.
Akash Deep was seaming the ball around everywhere. It was a weird wicket. It actually reminded me when I first came to the UK, the sort of wickets you would see over here, where the new ball would do a bit. Not crazy, but a bit. And then you'd get to about 25, 30 overs and you'd be like, all right, so we'll see you guys all at the second new ball then, shall we? Like there was an element of that to, I think, this game. But yeah, I thought it was weird comments. We've talked about it before. I think sometimes they don't say, well, no, I know this for a fact. They don't say things for us. They say things or their fans, I should say, not us. We don't matter, but for their fans, they say things for the change room. And if that's the way they want to go about it, I think that is misleading the change room. I think that's just wrong. I think you just have to say that Shubman Gill got away from them. They couldn't find a way to manipulate the wickets. They couldn't get wickets with the second new ball, right? Whatever that may be. To say it was a subcontinental wicket, but also remember that Ben Stokes has been playing spin really poorly, Bayram.
Yeah.
And he literally just came off after the ball was in the footmarks and Washington bowled a really good ball to get him out. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, England's woes versus spin, barring, say, Root, Duckett, and maybe Jamie Smith, they are well documented. But this wasn't about that because, as you mentioned, all those wickets fell to pace. I mean, Akash and Siraj had 17 wickets between them. And then again, to your point, I feel like this was a flat deck, but it was a new ball wicket. You really had to exploit the new ball, which India did well at all times. Even when they got the second new ball, they ran through England.
India had 3 chances to do it, right? And did it with 3. Yeah. With all 3 of those chances. And England probably didn't exploit it in the first innings, even though they got India 2 down. I'm trying to think. So, yeah, I mean, I just think India out-bowled them with the new ball, which is probably the major difference. And then the second new ball as well, as you said.
True. And also, if you look at that first session on day 1, there were times where England could have really struck. I mean, another umpire over there, and I'm not throwing shade at Saikat because those were 50-50 calls, but a lot of umpires would have raised their finger and maybe that could have changed things, but you cannot take that away from India's bowlers because they were terrific. I mean, look at the Akash Deep arc, right? He plays that test match in Australia, is incredibly unlucky. Now he gets a go as a new ball bowler, not a first change bowler. He takes 4 for 88 and 6 for 99, and that comes out to 10 for 187. On a flat deck, you've averaged your wickets at less than 19 apiece, which is amazing. Maiden fifer, maiden tenfer. He's been through tragedy himself, losing his brother and dad to COVID, dedicated this win to his sister who's fighting cancer. What a story, right? And he looks like a proper hustler. He's not sexy, but he gets that ball to nip back in like crazy, man. Like those Harry Brook dismissals were otherworldly.
No, mate, the theme movement that he gets is ridiculous, right? Like it's violent, it's vicious, and look, I've kind of liked him since the start. I don't know why he hadn't got more wickets before. I never thought he was bowling the wrong length or anything. I just think maybe he hasn't been as lucky. And this test match, he probably got more luck, right? Like to take this many wickets on this pitch is, that's a lot of wickets to be taking, right? So yeah, look, I do think there is an element there of his run has come, but he's good. He hustles through the crease. He's got an incredible wrist position, and as I said, his best ball is really fantastic. It's an incredible best ball.
It's really, really tough to negotiate. And of course, Mohammed Siraj, we've spoken of him as a rhythm bowler, a cluster bowler, or cluster wicket taker. And he's been delivering the wobble seam delivery a lot, in these two test matches. And that's what he did. 6 for 70, was kind of under bowled in his second bowling innings, and he still took 1 for 57. But overall, the funniest thing about Siraj for me is that he brings out his best when Bumrah is not around. I can't remember the numbers, but when Bumrah is playing, he's averaging like 35 with the ball, and when he isn't, it's like 26 or 27. So
Like
my theory,
about 9 different.
Yeah, my theory over here is that when Bumrah is playing, they're so afraid of him, the opposition batters, that they kind of target Siraj. And when he's not playing, that kind of makes Siraj the go-to guy, and he does better. I don't know. That's what I've tried to make sense of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking about it with Sid Monga on Talksport. So we're doing the commentary at the moment on this. Oh, but by the way, I should have said this at the start. But if you head over to my Twitter account at the moment and you see the pinned tweet, me and Tim Wigmore are speaking on Wednesday at an event at the Piccadilly Waterstones. All the details on my pinned tweet anyway, and you can go find that over there and come and chat to me and Wigmore about our books and about whatever you want. We'll be hanging around afterwards as well. Yeah, no, I was talking to Monga on Talksport. So we're doing the commentary on Talksport for the world feed. So you can't listen to it in India or England, but you can listen to it anywhere else. And we were chatting about that. And I was basically saying that I think that what happens is that when you have a player of his ability who's sort of that game changing, and the vibes and the energy are all sort of wrapped up in who Bumrah is and how good he is, I do think there is an element of teammates start to play around that rather than to that. And Monga called me an idiot, but that's okay because I'm pretty sure I could take him in a fight. But what he was saying is that's a little bit too reductive, and I think the difference in their average is too reductive. To say it's 9 runs different, I take Monga's point. I think that's probably a little bit of dumb luck at a certain point.
The only question that I have for you is that who has softer balls, you, Monga, or Dukes?
Probably Dukes at the moment. But I do think that there is an element of later on of when you're bowling and talking to Harmison about this on commentary, he was sort of saying that like you fall into the role that you have. And I don't know how you don't be a support bowler to Jasprit Bumrah. I've never covered a cricketer, and I'll include Stain and McGrath, in this. And I've also watched a lot of Ambrose and Akram and, all these great bowlers. Warren, Murley. I don't think I've ever covered a bowler or watched a bowler live where it feels like the energy and everything changes when they have the ball compared to when they don't have the ball. I never felt that with Jimmy or anyone else. And I do with Bumrah almost every time. Now, maybe that's just because I've got a thing for Bumrah, but he's pretty good at cricket, Bayram. So I do think there's an element of that as well. But it's a really interesting one. And it's something that could also be maybe he doesn't get the end he wants when Bumrah's bowling. Maybe he doesn't get the new ball as much, right? And let's not factor out our other good friend, dumb luck.
Yeah. Also, there's a very interesting super chat over here, Varun, by Rudra Patel. If you could bring that up since we're talking about India's bowling. Rudra Patel asks, who do you give the new ball to for India in the next test at Lord's? It's interesting. So Stokes has asked for a more, helpful wicket for the seamers now at Lord's. And we all are almost certain that Prasidh Krishna will be replaced by Bumrah. And Varun actually thinks that Akash and Siraj should take the new ball and Bumrah should be first change.
Same.
Yeah? Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning towards that as well.
I just think that it's a hard conversation to have. And obviously you would only do it if Bumrah is 100% on board, right? But I actually think then you have the Pat Cummins situation, right? Where you have survived the other bowlers with the new ball slipping around, and then it gets harder, right? Yeah. And I'm not sure that Bumrah is that much better with the new ball than the other two guys, that you're losing out at all. And then if Siraj bowls a bad 3 overs, fine. Right? When Mitchell Starc bowls bad 3 overs, Cummins just comes on earlier.
True. That is true.
So I have no issue with that at all. I think I like that idea. I don't think they'll do it. But that I do like that a lot. So on Stokes in the pitch, it's really interesting. Lord's is one of the few pitches in the UK that has managed to maintain its moisture, right? Where you could actually potentially do something like that.
And I mean, you've got the slope, Jared. That helps, right?
Yeah, I don't think you could do it. I don't think you could have done it at Edgbaston. All the moisture came on morning of day 5. Old Trafford is another one where I think they're going to struggle to do it. So, let's see how they go. I don't think the pitches are exactly the way they are. I think that the boundary rope and the balls are more likely to be how they are because of what England wants. I think the pitches are a little bit more, this is what we have this year, guys, and there's not much we can do here. And that sometimes happens, right? Like, there's not much you can do about that.
And even if it's a seamer-friendly surface at the start of the Lord's Test, we all saw the World Test Championship final, how it flattened out towards the fourth innings. So you never know what you'll get over there, and it will be quite interesting. But anyway, that's enough on India's bowling. Let's take a short break. You guys are watching Good Areas Live with Behram and Jared, and we will be back in like half a minute, so go nowhere.
Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today.
Welcome back to Good Areas Live. You guys are with Behram and Jared. And just a quick little thing I want to mention over here. I forgot earlier. I mentioned how you guys could become Patreon supporters. Well, you can go to Patreon/Good Areas Podcast to go and do that. So hop on right away and you'll get all that ad-free content.
Well, watch the rest of the show first.
Yeah. First, watch the rest of the show. And we discussed India's bowling, and it was all, bed of roses and rainbows and butterflies over there. Well, England's bowling, Jared, we've been discussing them for a bit. Even in our last review of the first test, we were talking about how if Stokes is your best bowler, if he's leading your attack, then you have issues. Well, they didn't take 20 wickets in this test. They took 16. And, their most successful bowler was Shoaib Bashir. And let me read out his figures for you. 3 for 167 in 45 overs, and then 2 for 119 in 26 overs. So that's nearly 300 runs for his 5 wickets. And those 5 wickets basically come when a batter makes a mistake. I don't want to completely throw the 21-year-old under the bus because he's 21.
And yet you have.
Yes, but he's averaging close to 40 now. And I mean, there are a lot of people who think Jacob Bethel should play. A lot of people also think that Jack Leach got done dirty and that Rehan Ahmed could be a choice. Liam Dawson could be a choice. England's bowling is suffering, right? You're watching them bowl and you don't know where the next wicket is coming from. And now we're hearing that Gus Atkinson might come in, or surely will come in at Lord's. Jofra Archer might be fit. Atkinson, of course, is on like the honours board at Lord's, like all of them, right? He's got a ton, he's got a 10 for, he's got a 5 for. And Jofra adds that express pace. What's the fix over here? Because if England don't show me more bite in their bowling, India have already won the series, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jofra coming in, we're just assuming he's going to bowl anywhere near his best, but I think he changes things a lot because instantly they have better new ball bowling, right? Yeah. I would assume that there is an element of, I would assume that Tongue and Cass are going to be rested and they'll bring in Atkinson and Jofra for them. So that's a better new ball bowling. I'm told that Atkinson's bowling well. I think, you know how I feel about Atkinson. If he's not bowling at full pace, I just don't think he's worth even playing. He just bowls straight. Well,
he does have that cross seamer, right? That George Dobell loves.
Yeah, when it moves. I watched him. I watched him bowl for 6 months. No one wanted to talk about this, but I watched him bowl for 6 months, and he was bowling at 132 kilometers an hour and wasn't seaming the ball all that much, right?
Yeah. Sorry, is there a difference between cross seamer and scrambled seam? Because he bowls scrambled seam.
Well, there's the cross seam, which is when you actually hold the ball completely across like this. And so sometimes the ball hits the smooth side and sometimes it hits the seam, which I suppose Liam Plunkett is the guy that sort of helped the most. We used to do it in club cricket occasionally, especially on synthetic wickets, but it wasn't that popular back in those days, but it's got a lot more popular now. Then the 3/4 seam is more like that, which is the one that Siraj bowls, which is, I think comes from, oh my God, I've forgotten his name. Tim Southey. His brother runs the New Zealand Cricketers Association. Kyle Mills. I think it was Kyle Mills who gave it to Tim Southey. And then there's a lot of bowlers who use that. And then there's this traditional wobble ball seam, which is sort of just, making sure it wobbles just a little bit. So if Atkinson's bowling at 90 miles an hour, he doesn't actually need to move the ball that much sideways. And maybe the cross seam can help. When he's bowling at 135 k's an hour, which is the last time I saw him, then he needs to move it a lot, and he doesn't move it a lot, right? So
And he's coming back from injury, so we don't know what the fitness levels are like. So
no, I have heard that he's been bowling well for in the nets and for Surrey, when he's been bowling of recent times. So I haven't been following. I won't have a look at that. If he's selected, I'll have a look. But I have noticed that it's not like he's taken lots of wickets when he's come back so far. I didn't think he was particularly good in the test against Zimbabwe, right? So let's see where Atkinson is, if he's been bowling as well in the nets as everyone tells me. But the point being is, it's still not a very good bowling attack.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Atkinson had a great previous English summer, but as you said, it's not like that bowling attack inspires a lot of confidence. And what I would do is I would take Bashir out. I would bring Sam Cook as a fourth seamer, then replace Ollie Pope with Bethel as the false number 3. Maybe that makes the most sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They sort of talked about that before the series. The thing is, I don't know if Bethel can bowl at test level.
Fair.
Like, does he even bowl for England when they play T20 cricket? Like, my memory is they haven't used him much. He's okay. I'm not sure he's a better bowler than Root. So then you're basically telling Root to be that. So Bethel has 12 wickets in first-class cricket at an average of 70.
Well
right?
then.
He goes, and here's maybe the more important thing. He goes at an economy of 4 runs and over. So he's not giving them control in first-class cricket. I like Bethel as a cricketer. I've seen him bowl enough to be like, okay, maybe as your 6th option. And Root can bowl okay, but Root needs conditions to be in his favour, and he needs the second innings and everything. And also, the Indians are going to milk him when they get a chance. Yeah. So I'm not massively keen on that, mate. But I mean, Liam Dawson's the one, isn't he?
True. I think Liam Dawson has to be the one. And
there's a false 3.
Well. Yeah, that would be great. But I think they might just stick with Bashir because, he's the quick fizz pick. His release point gives them a boner. That's basically what it is. That's basically why he's played so much. Pick?
I think it was Ben Jones who tweeted out the other day that he now has the highest economy ever for a spin bowler who's ever bowled that many deliveries in Test cricket.
Yeah. He doesn't get into the first team for Somerset, right? And I don't want to throw him under the bus because he's 21 years of age. He's got time on his side, but I don't know, man. I feel like I could survive an over of Shoaib Bashir.
Hey, look, his best ball is fantastic, right? It really is. His best ball, there's a couple of times when he bowled it in this test match, and I was like, well, how do you play that? But he doesn't bowl it that much.
Yeah.
He's not very consistent. He's very easy to milk. He was mucking around with the Karen ball a little bit now as well, which is fine. Yep. Like, whatever. He's a long way away from being the finished product. And you have Liam Dawson, you have Jack
Tom
Leach.
Hartley. Sheraton KD has mentioned Tom Hartley as well.
I've forgotten that he existed. I don't think Rehan Ahmed would be any better, right? But I don't know. I was saying to some friends the other day, at times I watch England and I feel like they are playing with 10 players because he just doesn't have the ability to have any impact on the game.
Yeah. And he's a specialist bowler, which kind of cripples them a bit more in my view. But anyway, we've spent enough time on their bowling attack. It's shit. Let's move on to England's batting. A lot of people have been failing in this test. Ben Duckett and Zach Raleigh both failed. And Zach Raleigh's he has the lowest average for any player who has scored over 2,500 test runs. That's the one, right? So there's that. And then Ollie Pope is back to his old low median score ways of batting. Joe Root hasn't clicked, and that's a big cause for concern. Ben Stokes' form with the bat is absolutely terrible as well. So, I mean, who really is in form over here? Duckett, sure, had one bad test. Jamie Smith and Harry Brook, is it?
Yeah.
That's not a lot of people.
It's not a lot of people. I mean, those three are in pretty good form. If you're going to have people in form, those three can not only make a lot of runs but change games very quickly. So I suppose there is that, Bayram. But yeah, their batting's still better than Australia's. It's a very low bar. It's an extremely low bar. There may not even be a bar. The bar may not be lifted if they're better than Australia at the moment.
And look, their first innings was basically an innings of one partnership. They were 84 for 5. And then there was that 303-run partnership between Jamie Smith and Harry Brook. And then they were folded for 407, so 20 runs later. I mean...
And their second innings is basically Smith, isn't it?
Yes. And do you remember Abhishek Mukherjee's tweet that England's first inning median score was 0 and mode was 0? So the middle score, for those of you who don't know stats, was 0. And the most frequent score was 0 because there were 6 ducks out of 11. That's enough ducks to feed New Zealand.
It's mathematically not ideal, is it? What happened there? No, that's very true. Look, I think there's some issues. I wouldn't be too worried about Root, right? And the thing with Pope is we probably expect one more innings of Pope at one stage in a first innings at one point. Although I'm not sure he picks up Bumrah very well. If you could, okay, from here on in, let's say that Root goes back to making 80% of the normal amounts of runs he makes, right?
Yeah.
And there is one incredible innings from Pope or Crawley, which I think is also doable.
Yeah.
That they could still win tests with that, right? But yes, it's they're a weird side.
I mean, Harry Brook, even though Harry Brook is averaging 58 plus in Test cricket, we know that if the ball is turning, he is vulnerable. But there's one really fun stat about Harry Brook. He scored 158 over here. He's got 9 tons in 27 Test matches. 5 of those tons have been scores of 150 plus. So if he scores 100, there's more than a 50% chance that he makes a daddy 100. And he is an impact player, so he can change
I would say, I reckon him and Pope go big,
True.
right? I think there's an element of, the reason that Pope's average is, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound silly, but the reason his average is so high, I know it's not high, but the reason he's not averaging like Zach Crawley is because Pope can do that. And it's the reason that Brook's average looks so great, right? Like Brook just goes on. And does. I thought Brook looked magnificent in this Test match. It's just that no one was looking at his end. That was the only reason that we didn't look there.
I don't know how he didn't chop on, by the way, because there were so many instances where he nearly played it onto the stumps during that 100.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I thought that is the key session for me when they stopped Smith and Brook from scoring quickly, and they should have taken a wicket, and they somehow didn't. And then the second new ball came, and they obviously went through.
When they bowled outside off, right? And maybe you could tell me better, but I feel like Harry Brook always plays with like an angled bat. It's like baseball. Does that make him more vulnerable to chopping the ball onto his own stumps?
Yeah, anyone with an angled bat is more likely to chop and to edge behind, to be fair as well. He just has incredible eyes. Sorry. He has an incredible eye, but he also has incredible hands, is what I meant to say. So Neil Manthorpe said that he got a message from someone saying that Harry Brook reminded him the most of Barry Richards. And they're both quite tall at the crease, quite upright. There's not a lot of foot movement. There's a few more moving parts in Harry Brook, but their hands get them out of trouble so much because even when they're in the wrong position, they kind of reach out and they do that. But it's really noticeable in this game that Jamie Smith, Jaiswal, and Harry Brook struggle when the ball was really wide of off stump.
Yeah.
And again, this is not, those young players don't know how to play the ball wide of off stump. It's because no one's been bowling wide to these guys of off stump. Everyone's been angling the ball back in with the wobble ball over a while. And it really, I don't think it bothered Jaiswal. He eventually went out to it. I don't think it bothered him, although clearly if you look at his record, short outside off stump is a bit of an issue for him at this point.
Yep.
But it really slowed down Brook and Smith. So much so that we were going, what, is this the new Bazball with brains? But I think it was more they weren't quite sure what to do with it. And they did play within themselves. So I think that, for me, that's one of the most important parts of the game was when India just hung the ball out wide to them and said, okay, we're just going to do this for a long period of time and see how we go. Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of positives for England, I enjoyed some of the fields that Ben Stokes set. There was the overlap field to dismiss Rishabh Pant in the first innings. He had mid on and long on. That's something I do in video games. So I was really like losing my shit when that happened. There were the 2 leg slips. There was both short mid on and short mid off, but that's pretty much it in terms of tactics because, of course, they concede over 1,000 runs. No thanks to their bowling. Jamie Smith is the real positive, right? Like 272 runs, is it, in this game? Dismissed once, 43 ball 50 when you're down 5 wickets for 84 runs, and his 100 came off 80 balls. So Gilbert Jessop's record lives. And he was at his counter-attacking best. He's versatile in the sense that he can shut up shop and play that counter-attacking knock. And, the one thing I love about Jamie Smith is that he can attack both pace and spin. His pull is really impressive. I would say mid-on or long on to square leg is his region. He doesn't spare you over there. And he's also averaging around 58 plus now in Test cricket. So he's been quite the revelation.
He was incredible, wasn't he? It was special to watch him bat at times. And to say that in a match when Harry Brook has made a big score and Shubman Gill has made 2 big scores, and to still notice Smith the way that you did. And, obviously this test is mostly going to be about, the Shubman Gill runs and how incredible it was from that point of view. But Smith's, he picks up the ball really well. There's a couple of things I want to see more of. You're right, he can score off spin. It was interesting that when it went defensive, he didn't seem to have as many options against it. His ability to... one thing I do want to go back and I want to have a look at MV play. He seemed to be cutting balls off like middle stump that weren't even that short at times. So there's a couple of things I want to have a look at there. But yeah, it was
he's a tall bloke, right?
Innings. Yeah.
Which makes it harder.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a thing. I don't know. Because I kept thinking, Washington's ball short again. And then eventually I was like, is that short? And then I started looking, going, I'm not sure these are that short.
Yeah. Anyway, we've discussed England in their entirety for this game. We'll come to India again. But before that, we will be taking a short break. You guys are watching Good Areas live with Jared and Behram, and we'll be back in half a minute. So go nowhere, Indian fans in particular.
As an international cricket journalist for 10 years, I tell you what, I have got a collection of international SIM cards that I will never truly understand. Now I find there is a company called Sally who gives you an eSIM, and it makes it all so much easier. So if you're planning on making any trips, download your Sally eSIM app, and you can also get a 15% discount if you say Good Areas, all one word, at checkout. Travel like a pro with your Sally eSIM today.
Welcome back to Good Areas Live. You guys are with Jared and Behram. And before we get into India's batting, let's just go through a power through of super chats, shall we? Because we've accumulated quite a few. Yeah. Yeah. And make sure, Jared, that you are concise. Harshit Rawat, he'll start off over here. He says, why do media pundits refrain from talking about how baseball is terrible for bowlers and selfish by batters dominating the power positions and cricketing discourse? I don't know if they
Jimmy
are.
Anderson said it was the most fun cricket he ever played, and Stuart Broad they did it. So they didn't. Yeah. I mean, that's why if the bowlers were and Jimmy Anderson can be grumpy. If Jimmy Anderson had said, "I don't like this," it would have been reported more. They loved it.
Anyway, what's next in terms of super chats? We've got Kunal. He says Abhishek Sharma must play test somehow, anyhow. Yeah, I don't know if you can usher him in too quickly because KL Rahul and Jaiswal is a great opening pair for now.
Yeah, I wonder if he even opens at test level. Maybe he bats further down. Look, there's no hurry. There's lots of good players around. I thought Karan Nair looked incredible at times in this test match. Didn't make any runs, and Sai Sudarshan could still bat. Shreyas Iyer's not in this side. Ishan Kishan's playing counter cricket. There's some talent.
Sarfaraz is also not playing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Shri asks, what can they ideally do about this set of Dukes? It hasn't had a say in the game yet, but could very well, and they don't seem to correct it for a few years now. Seems strange. So my understanding, Jared, of the situation is that the ball gets softer now after that 30 over mark. Is that correct?
Yes. We're seeing them replaced all the time, like the bad old days of the Kookaburra, if we're being honest. Yeah. The question is whether England want the balls to be slightly softer because they wanted to, and this might not even be a test theory. It might actually be all for county cricket as well, because they're also trialing Kookaburras. Do they want a ball that allows them to promote more fast bowlers and wrist spinners and less seam bowlers and nudges with the bat? Right? We don't know. But yeah, Dukes need to come forward and start to explain to us why the balls have not been good for a long period of time now. To be fair, I haven't reached out to them. I've got the owner's number somewhere, so I'll try and send him a message and see what he says. But it's been too long, hasn't it? At this stage, but these balls have been quite poor for a while.
That's true. I mean, I don't know about soft balls, but my balls have been the bluest they've ever been after Vian Mulder's declaration. SPV98 asks, there you have it. Thoughts on Mulder's dumb declaration. I suppose to save time, you could go to the start of this podcast, but Jared is fine with it. I am absolutely miffed. I cannot remember the last time I was this miffed.
I'm unmiffed.
Yeah. Andy asks, how do Jaiswal and Gill compare to Babar as talents? Well, as talents makes it a bit vague, no? I think Jaiswal is more talented.
Yeah, I think Gill's more talented as well than Babar, but I don't think Babar Azam is not far away from that, than that level. But I don't think he developed as well early as a player. Had a great little peak and then a struggle technically. Yeah. So, Gill kind of had a little struggle with his technical stuff, and he seems to have gone over it. It's actually a very tough question to answer in some ways, but I think I would have. I mean, depending on how many tiers we have, I'd probably still have Jaiswal ahead of both of them without,
same.
As in, if you were to...
I feel like his power game is also better than both of them, right? So he's also a better T20 asset. That's what it comes down to.
So for some reason, Jaiswal fans think I don't like him, despite the fact that I've said I have never seen a prospect like this before in my life. So I don't know how you're supposed to improve on that. Jaiswal's the only player that I see playing in Test cricket now that has a legitimate claim, that could have a legitimate claim to being a top 10 batter of all time.
Yeah, same.
Right? And there's a lot of other good players out there. So Gill, I don't see that at the moment. Not that Gill can't be a great. And Bubba was on our list when we started writing the book. Bubba wasn't far away from being in the... I don't think he was going to be in the top 50, but if he continued it the way he was playing, he could have been in a very different situation.
Yeah. So before we go on the next super chat, which is a repeat, by the way, thanks for the extra money, Harshit Rawat. Let's come to Potts in a bit. I actually want to talk a bit about these two guys, right?
You told me to be concise.
Okay, sure. Let's do super chats first. Susanna Ventura says, what happened to Matthew Potts? What did happen to Matthew Potts?
The start of this season, there was a thought that he might come back and play again. I don't think he's massively away from the side. I think once Wokes was fit, they sort of see him and Wokes fighting, and Cook, to be fair, all fighting for the same position. He hasn't been starring with the ball in first-class cricket of recent times. I'm just looking at his numbers. Got a couple of none-fizz as well. Some of those, that, to be fair, there's been a couple of games when no one's been able to get wickets. He's still very much in their view. I still really like Potts, but I haven't seen him bowl for a while. So I don't want to say that he might have just slipped behind or whatever else.
Andy says, as Lord's a bastion of white privilege, there are now better theatres of the game. Will India's batters struggle adjusting to its geometry? I feel everyone talks about the slope, but when the Nathan
there
Lyon
are slopes at other grounds, by the way.
Yeah, but when the Nathan Lyon thing happened, that's kind of when this conversation was at its peak, no?
Yeah, I don't know if that's white privilege. That's probably 1% of privilege, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, Nathan Lyon is also white. If you go through my entire writing, Andy, I think you'll see that it wasn't the first test venue in cricket. It wasn't the first test venue in English cricket. It is not where the laws were originally written, right?
Yeah.
There is an element of it all being sucked into London and a bunch of posh people being involved. My favorite Lord story, if you want it, Andy, and you can use it whenever you need to, is that at Lord's they had it's named after a man who tried to sell the ground because he wanted to put flats up on it, and yet they haven't changed the name. They've just kept it. Like, he loved cricket so much that he was going to sell his ground that was really famous. So, look, Lord's is still great. You need places like Lord's in Wimbledon, right? You need places like Eden Gardens. You need places like the MCG. That doesn't mean that the Wanderers and Wankhede and these other new stadiums that are popping up aren't also part of that, right? I think you do need that. So I have no issue with that. But it's not really the home of cricket anymore. And you could make an argument it should never have been the home of cricket if you wanted to. I know some of us might make that argument.
But it does have that level of prestige, and I've covered a game at Lord's, and you do kind of feel that special thing going around in the air. So I don't know. I like it. Anyway.
I felt that way at P. Sarah.
Path right winger with a super chat. He says, is there something in English cricket culture that has an obsession for all-rounders? They seem to be missing specialized skills again in a way that Broad and Anderson didn't, right? Shoaib Bashir is a specialist.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to say that, Path, when India are so desperate to play all-rounders that they're picking 2 and 3 in every game at the moment. South Africa's always been obsessed with all-rounders. West Indies is a culture that hasn't always been as obsessed with them. Australia hasn't quite been as obsessed with them. They've both been interested in them, but maybe not as much. New Zealand's probably another country that I would say that likes them. I would never say that England likes all-rounders more than South Africa does, if you look at the history of the two sports. So I get it, but no, not 100%.
Yeah, anyway, Anish asks, think only Jared believed in Siraj before the second match. Our entire team believed in Siraj. I believed in Siraj on Pro Sports as well.
He's good at bowling, guys.
I like Siraj.
The thing with Siraj is, he might never be the bowler that his best delivery is. Right? I I'll happily concede to that. To say he's not a test match bowler, though, is a bit ridiculous because his ability to seam the ball at high pace is, just on another level. And what I'm looking for, so this is really important, Anish. What I'm looking for with a test bowler, do they have a specific skill that is elite enough to keep them in test cricket, right? Now, it might be with Siraj, he only has one skill, right? But that skill is so elite that you have to respect it. So that's why I believe in him. I don't have anything. I've never met him. I've got no relationship with him. I'm purely looking at the skills.
Yeah. Anyway, Vibor Seth asks, do you think Prasidh was misused in the first innings in terms of just giving him short pitch to bowl? If so, how much is he to blame for his figures? Well, England did that as well, right? Gill peppered them on the short stuff. So both sides made that mistake.
That's the soft balls as well, to be fair. But they really made a huge mistake, India, in that they told him to bowl short and he had a deep backward square out and a fine leg, maybe a mid wicket, maybe like and so Jamie Smith, because the ball was soft, he could hit the ball anywhere he wanted. I would say that Prashid also didn't bowl. Not sure Prashid is a great bouncer bowler, right? I've seen this with Josh Tongue as well. Josh Tongue's actually quite good back of a length. He's not always a great bouncer bowler. Just because you're fast and you're tall and you're strong doesn't mean you're going to be a good bouncer bowler. There's a lot more that goes on there. So yeah, look, he didn't bowl well and he did lose the plot a little bit. But it took India forever in that one over to work out the field that he needed. And by then, Jamie Smith was just going. And once Jamie Smith's going, he's not going to stop until you get him out.
Abi11 asks, how come the Dukes has been potent in the Caribbean? The surfaces. They've been aiding fast bowlers.
West Indies made a decision when they picked the Dukes, actually, that they were going to make sure that they have grass on the wicket. They wanted fast bowling because West Indians love fast bowling. That was the whole thing. They wanted West Indians to come back to the games and they wanted fast bowling. Also, very important to note that the Dukes in the West Indies are different than the Dukes in England, right? And that's because for the same reason that the kookaburras that are being used in England at the moment are different than the kookaburras that are used in other countries. Balls are changed for different locations. So it's not even, they shouldn't be the same ball, right? Even if they have some of the same attributes.
Anyway, Karthik Udaya asks, wonder how many runs had Prime, Pujara, Kohli or Rohit 2020 to 2021 scored if they played on lifeless English pitches when Dukes got soft inside 20 overs. Well, I mean, anything could have happened, right? How much runs would they have made if their wickets at home were helping them as well? So true.
That's very fair. Look, this is why we look at match ratio and error ratio and all these things. Karthik, this is what we are looking for, right? We are like, we were looking at Gill's record the other day, and I know Barron wants to talk about Gill. We're looking at Gill's record the other day, and we're like, well, actually, he wasn't as bad as the fans made out. It was just that they were on a lot of tough pitches.
Yes. And now, finally, I get that moment where I get to talk about Shubman Gill. All right. He averaged 35 before the series. He's averaging close to 43 now with the bat. Twin hundreds in this game. So he's captained India in 2 test matches and he's batted 4 times. He's got 3 hundreds, which are his highest scores in test cricket ever. This was his first 150 plus score and he ends up scoring 269. Follows it up with 161, which is 430 runs on aggregate, which is the second highest runs on aggregate in test history ever after Graham Gooch. As Varun is pointing out, his match factor was 13. So he was 130% better? Is that correct?
Doesn't that mean 1,300% better?
I think that might be 1,300% better. This was also the highest score by any Indian captain, highest individual score, highest score by an Indian batter in England, and Shubman Gill's highest first-class score as well. And I mean, if you look at him bat, he respected the good length for the most part. He was anticipating the balls that would come into his stumps, and there was no gap between bat and pad, which is growth. That's growth right there. And then he could drive you or flick you when it's full. He could cut you and pull you and even uppercut you if he wants to when it's short. He made the most of fuller length balls and shorter length deliveries. And he can also play spin so well. He came down the track and he swept and reverse swept. It was a complete package sort of game for Shubman Gill. And that must do his confidence a world of good because now he's batting at number 4, which seems like he is the heir apparent for that batting position. And I mean, you tweeted, right, that Sachin has only scored more than 430 runs in a series thrice. He scored that in 1 game.
Yeah. Sachin was a fascinating player because he's so consistent, but he doesn't have the big series. And a lot of people were saying, well, he never played 5 test series. And I'm like, I know. But he also, Gill's done it in one test. So I think we have to also bring that in. But look, he was just on rails. He was so in control of what he was doing. He was he started quite slow in the first innings. I love the way he accelerated at different times. I've seen a lot of big scores. So I've seen 2 test triple hundreds. I've seen so many double hundreds. I probably lost count, right? I don't know if I've ever seen anyone more in control for as long as he was in.
True. What was it? 92, 93%? Something like that, right?
I'm not even talking about that, the actual control percentage, although I'm sure that's a part. But just in complete control of his emotions, the moment, each individual delivery, right through the test, right? Like all the way through the test. I just thought it was, and I'll also say this. One thing I like about modern cricket is the 2 tests I'd seen the triple hundreds in before, I got quite bored, right? Hashim Amla and Michael Clark with the 2 triple hundreds. And I've seen Alistair Cook make 290 or whatever as well, probably. I think I have. I usually get quite bored. I didn't really get bored. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. It was incredible.
No, he was in control. He was player of the match as well. He took a good catch. All of them caught superbly well in the cordon, right? Even though India do drop a few catches here and there, but it was a big step up from Headingley because their catching in the slip cordon was great. Siraj also held on to a screamer. And, okay, Gill, big checkbox, right? Amazing. Everyone is in form. Jaiswal scored a ton in the last game, 87 over here. KL Rahul, their plans were brilliant versus him in the first innings. 55 in his second dig, right? Rishabh Pant, again, doing Rishabh Pant things, dropped twice, scores 65. Jadeja scored what? 89 and 69, got dismissed once, right? India were 211 for 5, and then he has that 203-run partnership. Literally, Karun Nair, who also looked good in patches, is the only guy you could say is not in that sort of form, and throw in Nitish and Sai. India are in a very, very good position or pole position to win this series now, especially with Bumrah coming back and Kuldeep as an X-factor option.
Yeah, it is. I just did a World Test Championship preview. I know the World Test Championship's already started, but it's taken us a while to get to it. But I just did the preview, and I think there is an element of, with England, they can just win test matches at any time. So even if you're sitting there now going, oh, India looks better, like a week ago we thought England looked better, right? So
true. I did not imagine that India could win this game, actually. I didn't have
I think Robbie might have said the same thing on Kim Upper this morning. So I'm not going to overreact to the last 2 test matches all that much. The thing is, it's very hard to beat England consistently, right? But in a 3 test series, which is what this is now, right?
Yeah.
There is a chance of winning 2 test matches for India. I think that's very, very fair. There's also still a chance for draw, sadly, at Old Trafford as well. But so I think they've got more of a chance of winning now. I still think the World Test Championship, I still had them down as 3-2 when I was doing my predictions for England. So I'm not flipping suddenly and going in the other direction. And remember, I had India at 3-2 when I thought Shami was going to be fit. Yeah. Akash is bowling like Shami. Maybe I need to change my decision a little bit. But, when it comes down to it, I still think that there's a very good chance of coming back. But remember, you have to beat England, right? Yeah. The one big advantage I would say that India have at the moment is England actually haven't had a proper collapse yet. And they are due 2 in the next 3 test matches. Now, it may not matter because they might score 600 in one of the matches. but they are due some collapses, I reckon.
But Joe Root is due some runs. And on the flip side, India are due some failures because everyone is literally clicking. But anyway, we've got a couple of super chats. We've got a couple of super chats. So let's take those before we end this. We've got Anish once again. He says, can Gill break Bradman's record? Which one?
That's what I was thinking.
Most runs in a series, I think. That's what he's going for.
Oh, yeah. Was that 900 odd? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Jaiswal came close, right? Last time.
974. There it is.
Yeah, these 2 teams played each other in India, and Jaiswal was going prolifically. So I don't know. That's a tough one. Really tough one.
I would say, well, the Oval just had 800 runs scored on it. Old Trafford, no one's taken a wicket this year. If you're going to do it, and we saw how much Lord's flattened out if you could actually stand on it for long enough. So if he's going to have a period to have a go, this is it.
Yeah. And I mean, he's filled some massive boots with the captaincy in number 4 spot. So who's to say he can't break this record? All right, then. The last super chat, is it? Hopefully. Let's have it, Jared or Varun, whoever is putting it up. It's Faraz who asks, don't you think Green tops green tops favor England when they have more depth with Woke, Stokes, Scarce, and they can still play two other fast bowlers, whereas India have Nitish Shardul as fourth seamer, won't pass ball work. Well, India have Akash, Siraj, and Bumrah right now. That's a better pace attack.
So here's the issue with... So Wokes is slow at the moment. I thought he bowled much better in this test match than he did in the first one, but he's slow.
Was a bit unlucky as well. He was the angriest I've ever seen him.
Stokes is a swing bowler. So, yes, the grass tracks help him because it can help the ball stay nicer for longer, but he won't get seam movement consistently. Cast doesn't just to hit the wicket bowler, right? So, again, I don't know if that matters. So, if those are the three bowlers you really like for us, and you're talking about green pitches that seam around, then Akash, Siraj, Prasid, and Bumrah are as likely to hit the seam as any of those guys are, and more so. So I don't know how that does it. You might get to a situation where you just want to shoot out, right? And things change. Because one thing that helps, this is the thing, I think people think that the green seam is really help England. But if it's a shootout test, Harry Brook can just score 150 off 80 balls by just being mad, right? Yeah. Jamie Smith has the ability to do that. Ben Duckett has the ability to do that. Crawley has the ability to do that. Pope, that's before you even get to Stokes or Root, right? So they actually have a lot of guys who, even on a wicket that's crazy, they could just take the game away in a session, right? So low-scoring matches can also help England sometimes, right? Just because of that X factor. So I've never thought that the green pitches were a huge advantage to them. And at the moment, India has a better new ball bowling attack in form than England does.
And I mean, they've lost a test now in which they've conceded 500 plus. So that think or hoodoo is ended. But anyway, that wraps up our super chats, I think. And thank you to everyone in the comments section for your interactions and your super chats. Let us know all of your thoughts below in the comments as well. What do you think both teams should do, and who do you think will win at Lords? And just a quick reminder, you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage. That can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the fun work that we do as part of this team, whether it be written content, videos, or podcasts. And another reminder, this podcast was powered by our supporters on Patreon. You can become one of them by going to Patreon.com/Good Areas Podcast. And of course, you can get ad-free content and talk to us personally and give us quick picks, ideas, all that fun stuff, right?
And if you want to meet me, go to my Twitter, that pinned tweet, Piccadilly, Waterstone, 6:30 on Wednesday in the city. If you're an Indian fan coming over for the test, people always contact me during test matches. I'm literally writing, making videos, and commentating. The chances of me seeing you during a test match, about 1,000 to 1. The chances of me seeing you at this event, well, odds on, because I'm definitely going to be at this event. Tickets are 10 quid through Waterstones.
And you could buy Wigmore's book and pay 36
quid.
Whoa!
No buying of Wigmore's book.
Only buy The Art of Batting. That's the better book. But anyway, thank you once again, everybody, and enjoy your week. We'll be back soon enough with another show. And that's all for today. Have a good one, and goodbye.
Cricket boards actually make watching their games almost impossible now. I spend almost as much time trying to find where I can view it as I do actually following the action. That is why I use NordVPN. They let me find all the cricket I want to watch while protecting me from the nasty side of the internet. Nord will free your cricket matches. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/good areas to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Watch every match with NordVPN.